When it comes to training, I really don't think there is some kind of secret thing which makes you way better or anything. I think it is just being consistent with it over a long period of time. Last year, I managed to qualify for the Olympic qualification series by coming top 50 in the World Cups. So this year, my main goal really is to train for those OQS events, which will be held in May and June, and they'll be where the last spots are allocated for the Olympics. So that's kind of the main goal at the minute. I've sort of like made my room as just a bit of a geeky climbing like collector's den. Mal gave me this, signed by Johnny, Ben Moon, Jerry, Ron. It's pretty cool. I've always really liked climbing history and just like all things climbing really. I'm a bit obsessed, so I'm kind of always scouring eBay for old books or magazines or posters or like literally anything. I've got some old campus rungs dotted around. This is Aiden's birthday present. Our father doing his thing. It's nice to just come up here and chill out in between bits of work or something, just like flick through some old magazines, read some articles. And that's actually how I started a lot of my training when I was a kid. I used to just read all these magazine articles from like Malcolm Smith and stuff, and then just do that training when I was like 13 years old or something. I think I'm quite used to a high training volume, so for me, the average week is 6 days on and 1 day off. Competitions tend to be Saturday, Sunday, so I'll usually rest on Friday so that I'm kind of ready to go for Saturday, and then I just mimic that in training. However, as it gets a bit closer to competitions, I tend to have a little bit more rest. So this week I've had rest day on Tuesday, so I had 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off, and that's a lot nicer for having more skin and less muscle soreness, so that you can kind of get more out of each session where the emphasis is more on quality rather than quantity or training some energy systems or something. Because the OQS is a combined event of both lead and boulder, my training's quite different now, whereas I used to kind of train for a boulder season and then a lead season. Now it's a lot more concurrent, so I'm training both of them together. Every week will consist of a couple of endurance sessions, a couple of strength sessions, and then some kind of play sessions where I'll be working more on like movement. Saturday I was doing hard circuits, trying to make them as hard as I can and aiming for like 40 to 50 moves. I guess trying to just mimic what it's like on a hard lead route that we might come across in a World Cup. So not many resting points, kind of quite relentless in terms of just hard move after hard move. I'll make up a circuit and I might try that circuit for 2 or 3 sessions. And then once it feels learnt and I'm kind of just moving through it like too fast, then I'll try and set another one to work on. Because I definitely think you can kind of learn the circuit too much, and then rather than actually getting fitter, sometimes you've just refined it and you just kind of flow through it so well that it's not actually that beneficial for training anymore. So I like to try and keep the circuits kind of new every couple sessions.
I feel like I get so pumped doing circuits. It's like not... I don't know, you know when you see people on routes and it looks like they're just never pumped, it's like, does it feel like this for everyone?
I think I've always been quite relaxed with my approach to everything really. Like I'm not super strict on myself when it comes to like eating or drinking, but equally I still like want to perform well, so I don't like overdo it. Some close friends of ours at Porter Pizza had just opened their new restaurant, so we went there one day and had like pizza and a few beers and stuff. I think it's important to still have that like social interaction, not just training like in the gym all the time, but to get out, see mates that aren't just climbers and kind of do other things. For me, that's like really important just to keep like a healthy balance with it all. I'd much rather be kind of climbing still when I'm 80 and still loving it, rather than like go all in and just kind of burn out and lose passion for it. Normally I do like to eat healthy, but the only footage we've got is like just me scranning pizza and bacon. Sunday was a hard splat session, so that's kind of like a hard board session, I guess, but we do it on the splat instead of on the board, so it's on the holds that you'd be on in a competition, and you're not kind of just on small holds and pinches. You're on a lot of like big slopers, or there's volumes, or there's just a lot more like variety to it, and it's kind of like just making up as hard boulders as possible in a variety of different styles that would be like the hard climbs you'd come up against in a Boulder World Cup round.
The other week I set like a comp sim in the comp room for a bunch of the GB guys, so I'm going to start by warming up on those.
For me, that's probably one of the most fun sessions of the week, just getting to try really hard on fun climbs. That session on the spray wall is usually quite a social session. It's nice to kind of try boulders with each other, have boulders set by other people with moves that you might not set yourself, so it's kind of nice to bounce off of each other, and you definitely feel that climbing there.
Come on.
There's not too much structure to that session. I just tend to go for as long as I can, both in terms of skin, and once the level drops below a point where I'm not really getting anywhere on boulders that are an accurate level, that's when I'll kind of tend to stop that and then go and do my conditioning. That day I was just doing really heavy pull-ups, so heavier than I can do for a rep, and then I'm kind of holding the top position to just strengthen that kind of end point. I was doing it with plus 65 kilos, which has been too hard for me to lift. Like, that was more than my 1 rep max. However, that session was actually the first time where I've done, well, maybe not quite done, but like 0.95 of a rep of like getting 65 kilos up. So that was cool. Definitely saw some like improvements with that. Definitely this year, outdoor climbing has been put on the back seat a little bit. But if it kind of fits in around my training in a way that it's not going to interfere with it too much, I'll try and get out a little bit if I can, just because I think it helps with like my general well-being and just like psych for doing the training as well. Them is a kind of high baller rep. It has a stand start and a sit start, and both of them kind of use this old bolt head. It's literally just a small iron bolt that's just kind of like protruding from the rock, and it's just enough to kind of get you to the next hold, and then there's a useful foothold for the rest of it. I don't know, it's quite novel, like you don't usually get to experience that sort of thing on a climb. And then the arete for your left hand, although it's really good, is just so polished, and the feet are super polished as well. And if you go in summer, there's always hundreds of, probably thousands of ants just walking up the arete like all day long. So we've kind of hypothesized that maybe the arete is polished from just thousands of years of ant travel. It's the only possible option.
Nice, oh, it's cool. Climbs well. That's been on my wish list for a while as well. No, we just pop it on 7C. There's quite a nice circuit, like some of them are a bit softer, some are a bit harder. It's a nice like batch of maybe 20 boulders that if you're feeling good you can fire through them and then go on to the harder grades. Yeah, good mileage session. This board's quite different to my home board. in that here, like, there's not really any small holds, so you're always doing like bigger, more explosive moves. So it's nice to do like sessions at home and then sessions here, and they'll work like totally different things.
Alongside all my climbing, I also work as a coach and then do like little bits of route setting or just kind of any random odd job I can get, really. So I try and slot that in around my training where I can, either on a rest day or like before or after. When I was in secondary school, I did like a little bit of music tech. I could never play any instruments, but really enjoyed using software to like create music. And then when I moved to Sheffield, I got a bit more into like mixing, and me and my old housemate put on a few nights together in Sheffield. And then only recently I've like got back into trying to like make some little bits of music and stuff. So yeah, like dug out my old MPC, and it's funny like listening back to loads of things I made when I was younger. Some friends of mine had asked me to record a mix for their little mix series, so I went and did that in the morning. And it's nice to kind of have time where you do something totally unassociated with climbing. For me, it's nice to just like switch off, and then I always feel myself pretty like eager to get back climbing. I'm always like at the end of a rest day really keen to like get back in the gym or get back to training. This was probably the session that I hate the most. I really never want to get up and do it. I was just trying to think of any creative way of changing it, but in the end I just got it done. But I basically just do time on and time off and just stick to a cycle and just repeat that for lots and lots of sets. So it's pretty like boring and arduous, and it kind of destroys your skin, but I think that's the kind of like good groundwork that you need to just kind of raise that like fitness level. Alongside all my climbing, I try and do like a couple runs a week, and these are never like very long or very hard. It's just like 20 to 30 minutes going pretty slow, and it's more just for like, you know, a bit of like background training, and just I enjoy doing it. It's nice to like get out of the house and get some fresh air, and just like make me feel good. So I just have that in there on the side as well, and I think it accompanies the lead training quite well for a bit of like baseline endurance and just like general recovery. Thursday was the last training day of the week. That was a play session.
How many pull-ups do you reckon you filmed in this week? Every day when I'm warming up, I've done a bunch of them.
Play will just be going and doing more hard climbing, but it's on a little bit more of an emphasis of just like messing around with different moves. Trying variations on a climb. Maybe you've like done a slab in your soft shoes, try and do it in your hard shoes, like see how it feels. We went over to Depot Armley. All the boulders there were new for me. I hadn't been on any of them, so it was like a good place to just do a big volume of climbing and get lots of like moves in the bank.
Still got so much to learn with this kind of like, I'd say most people, well, for so many of the climbers that do the World Cups, this type of boulder is just like an easy flank. But for me, it's like 40-minute siege.
had a little bit more conditioning. Again, just some more pull-ups. These were with a bit more of a focus on power. So one kind of near maximal pull-up for like recruitment, and then I take the weight off and do 3 really fast reps to try and work on my power. And then I just had a little few like sort of accessory conditioning exercises to go alongside it. Quite high reps, but quite low intensity, and just kind of knock you out.
Oh, that last one was almost like dropped on my head.
When it comes to training, I really don't think there is some kind of secret thing which makes you way better or anything. I think it is just being consistent with it over a long period of time. And a lot of my training is very simple, not really any crazy exercises. It's just like simple things, but doing them really well. And I think most of the quality comes from the on-the-wall stuff you're doing. Having the right attitude towards your training when you're at the wall is where you can get the most out of it. Being quite open to looking at what you did well in a climb and why it was good, or what didn't go so well and how you can improve it for your next try. Thinking like that about each attempt is really valuable, I think. Once you learn to drive and you've been driving a car, say you've been driving for 5 years or something, you don't necessarily get better at driving, because when you get in the car you just switch off and kind of tick along on autopilot. I think when you're in the climbing wall, a lot of people maybe think the same. They like turn up and they're like, right, I'm here, I'm climbing, therefore I should be getting better. But you need to have that kind of active thought process about what can I be doing to get better, or what can I improve on, or why did my foot slip off that hold, or like why couldn't I hold onto that pinch, and changing all these little things and thinking about that. I think that's where you can get the most out of each session, by kind of having a lot more analytical look at it.